And today's a very interesting daf because we'll learn about another kind of Temurah. It's not a Temurah, it's a switching of Kedusha, or an adding of Kedusha, trying to change a Kedusha. The whole Inyan of Maseches Temurah is, Temurah means substitution, but it's an illegal substitution of one animal for another animal. We're going to learn about a kind of a additional Kedusha, not a switching of Kedusha, but an adding on of Kedusha in our Mishnah. So yesterday we had zombies, and then we had Kodesh Mizbeach versus Kodesh Bedek Habayis, and we learned about the distinction between animals that are going up onto the Mizbeach versus something that a person is makdish to the building fund, to the temple upkeep, and that could be any sort of materials, it could be fields, it could be animals. And we saw this Heilig of Machlokes, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, if somebody's makdish all of his assets, and that includes animals, well, then there's a Machlokes. Rabbi Eliezer says he doesn't machalek, he doesn't divide up his neder, so he wants everything to go to Bedek Habayis, so we'll sell the animals to people who need them for karbanos, and all the money go to Bedek Habayis. Rabbi Yeshua says the person wouldn't leave out the Mizbeach. If he's makdish everything, he wants something to go to the Mizbeach. So the males will be olos, the females will sell for shlamim, and the animals will go on the Mizbeach, and everything else will be going to Bedek Habayis. We're going to continue today with the distinctions between Mizbeach and Bedek Habayis. We're going to add a sort of third category of Chermei Kohanim, which you might remember from the end of Archim. Thank you, Moshe. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nהיה b'dvaro. L'chaim. So the Mishnah says at the top of the heart, at the top of Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, Echad Kodesh Mizbeach, Echad Kodesh Bedek Habayis, Ein Mishanin Osan Mikdusha LeKedusha. So the Mishnah says whether it's Kodshim that go on the Mizbeach, Karbanos, we'll call them, Echad Kodesh Bedek Habayis, or something donated to Bedek Habayis, we do not change them from Kedusha to Kedusha. So the Rashi here points out, he says, Kodesh Bedek Habayis, Shehikdisha LeMizbeach, Lo Asa Klum. If you had something which was Bedek Habayis, and then you tried to change it into Kodesh Mizbeach, tried to make it a carbon, you haven't done anything, because you've already given it over, Rabbosai, to Bedek Habayis. The temple owns it, you can't make this animal into a carbon now. Kodesh Mizbeach, and among Kodesh Mizbeach, Ein Mishanin Mikedushas Ola L'Shlamim, Mishlamim La'ola. We know that the different animals, the different karbanos, have different time periods where they're eaten, they have different limbs, go up on the Mizbeach, sometimes different blood service, so we can't change the Kedusha among Kedusha of the Mizbeach. Now, interestingly, the Rambam adds to this. Now, the Rambam, in Perek Daled of Hilchos Temurah, in Halacha Yud Aleph, he says, Hamshane et ha-kodshim, mikedusha lekedusha, over below taseh. So our Mishnah is saying don't do it, he's saying it's a lo taseh. Shnemar bevechor, he learns out from bechor, which we remember from bechoros, is a carbon. If your bechor is unblemished, it's and a Jew fully owns it, there was never any shutvus, any partnership with a non-Jew in the mother or in the bechor itself. We learn out in the bechor, lo yakdish ish oso. By bechor, the Torah says don't make it into a carbon because it's already a carbon. Shelo yasenu olo shlamim. You can't make your bechor into something else. Now, actually, we learned recently, before the bechor is born, you could make it into something else, but after it's born, once it's a bechor, because it gets kedusha merechem, once it comes out of its mother, it's kadosh as a bechor, as a firstborn male animal, you can't change it. Now Rambam adds, it's very interesting, Vahu din l'shar kodshim, and this is the din for all holy things, she'ein mishanin osan, you can't change them mikedusha lekedusha, from one level of sanctity to another. Echad kodshim mizbeach, Echad Kodesh Bedek Habayis. So he says whether or not it's for the Mizbeach or for Bedek Habayis. And interestingly, the Rambam says you can't change mi Bedek Zeh le Bedek Zeh. You can't change from one fund to another. For instance, if it's the fund for the courtyard, you can't change. He actually says if it's the fund for the Heichal, which is the building of the temple, you can't then change that donation to go to the courtyard, to go to fix something else. So the Rambam is saying it's not only among Kodesh Mizbeach, among animals that are karbanos, that you can't change their status. It's if we make a donation to the temple for a specific reason, we can't change that to a different reason. So, Lamaisa, you could have a case, Lamaisa, if somebody donated money for the light bulbs for the shul, and then they said, you know what, I don't want to give light bulbs, I want to give to the kitchen fund. I want to give to the kiddush. So according to the Rambam, a person might not be allowed to do that because he's mishanim mikadusha. First of all, if his donation, which typically we assume is a little bit of a bli neder, sometimes they don't always collect. If you've tried to collect people who have made an adava to the shul, you try to go and collect it. It doesn't always, not always collectible. But typically, people kind of assume bli neder. But if it gets the same status as a bedek abayis, that the Rambam would say you can't change it. Now the Ravid has a problem with this. The Ravid says, Lo yadati minayin lo. He says, I don't know where the Rambam got this from. Shari kulon mikoche bedek abayis. He says the bedek abayis is one fund. It's as if it's one big bank account, not a bunch of little accounts. Kulon mikoche bedek abayis hem baim. He says there's a brisa haketoris v'klar karbanos etzibur meviim mitrumas alishka. So all these different things are coming out of the trumas alishka, which is bedek abayis. Mizbeach hazachav, levona, kli sharis, bayin mimoser nesachim, that comes out of leftover nesachim money. Mizbeach ha'ola, lishkos v'zaros, bayin mikoche bedek habayis, hutz l'chomas hazara, bayin mishari lishka. So Ravid gives sources about the funding sources for different parts of the temple, and he says that we're not really mechalek different levels of kedusha in the building of the temple. We will see in Midos we are mechalek different areas, different people can go inside the temple, but in terms of the funding sources, the Ravid says he doesn't understand why the Rambam is mechalek under different levels. So so the Kesef Mishnah, which is the Shulchan Aruch, says, listen, the Rambam read the Mishnah. The Mishnah says echad koche mizbeach, echad koche bedek abayis. Ein mishanin or so. You don't change them. So he says the Rambam is just learning in the Mishnah. The Rambam is pshat in the Mishnah that if you've given a specific bedek abayis, you haven't given to the general funds for the shul, you've given specifically for the shemen lamaor, for the light bulbs, for the electricity, something like this, then you shouldn't change it. But the Kesef Mishnah adds, he says you could upgrade the kedusha to bedek abayis if it's something more holy. You were just going to do rocks, now you want to do gold. You were just going to do the courtyard, now you want to do the heichal, the building itself. Maybe the Ravid would agree that maybe you should be able to upgrade kedusha, as we're going to see in our Mishnah. So beautiful. We've done the first two lines of the Mishnah with the Rambam and the Ravid. Beautiful. So we're getting places. So the Mishnah continues. Umakdishin osan hektish ilui. And you can makdish a pre-existing kodshim with a hektish ilui, which is sort of an additional sanctity. So the Taisva says ilui is lashon shuma, kamo me'alin bedamim. We say estimate the money. Kilomar shamin kama koach yesh lo ba. We assess how much financial interest a person has in this carbon, and that's what he can add on in kedusha. The Mishnah says machrimin osan, and we can make them a cherem. We're going to see exactly which kind of cherem we mean. So the Rashi explains. He says makdishin osan is a kodshim mizbeach kai, and an animal that's going to be a carbon. Hektish ilui, Rashi says kegonim amar al ola harezo lebedek abayis. So it's already an ola, Rabosai. So since it's an ola, it doesn't really belong to you, because we have a beautiful concept all over Shas. Amiraso legavocha, kimisiraso lehedut. Once you have verbally designated your carbon, it doesn't belong to you in the normal sense of the word. It's not really yours. It's already in the reshus of hektish. It's already in the reshus of the gavoha. The temple already has ownership rights to bring this as a carbon. So what's actually going on? Rashi explains. Malinosa bedamim kigoni mamar olozo lebedek abayis malin osa bedamim. You add on to the money. Lifi masha yesh lo koach bo, according to his financial interest in this carbon. V'nosin the gizbar, and he gives that to the treasurer for bedek abayis. Titznal, the Mishnah says be'archin perika makdish. I remember this from the end of Archin. Machrim adam et kedoshav. A person can be machrim. This is another. Machrim is making a cherem vow. It's another form of vow. So something that's already his kedoshav, something that's already his carbon, designated by him as a carbon. Im neder, if he made it as a neder. Notain demehem, he gives the full value of the animal. I'm still in the Rashi here. V'im nedava, and if it's merely a nedava, it's a gift. Noisen es tovasam, he gives the tovas hana, we call it, sort of his interest in it. Rashi's going to explain. It's a big Rashi here, but it's worth getting through to explain exactly what this means. Kodesh ilui. Kulomar. Now Rashi is going to explain. Im behema zo haiso neder. If this animal was a neder, kigon de amar hare alai ola. He says the obligation is on me to bring an ola. Behifrish zo, and he has separated this particular animal lenidro for his neder. Kevan de im mesa o nigneva chay b'charusa. Since if this particular animal, which he's designated for his neder vow, if it gets lost or stolen, he is chayav to replace it. Nimsa, we find shekulo shalo, that it's all his. Now it doesn't mean he owns it because the temple has an interest in bringing it as a carbon. It means he's on the hook financially. He's on the hook for the full value of this animal. Therefore, noten kol demecha lecherem kohen. So he can give the full value to the kohen if he's macharim this animal, even though it's already his ola, because it was for a neder. But huadin nami lebedek habayis. Or if he says it's also kaddish lebedek habayis, that doesn't mean this animal has changed from Kodshim Mizbeach to Kodshim Bedek Habayis. It means he's now paying Bedek Habayis the additional value. Im Hitpis Kodshim Mizbeach LeBedek Habayis. If he's adding on Kedusha on his carbon to Bedek Habayis. Im Nedava. Now Nedava we translate sort of as a gift or a donated offering. He's not on the hook. We're going to see in Rashi. If it dies, this particular animal he's separated for his Nedava. If it dies, he's not chayav and achray. He's going to have to pay for it. Nimsa she'ein lo chelik ba ela tovas hana. He has no financial interest in it, only the tovas hana. Now, what is tovas hana? Rashi will explain. Derashai little devar muat. He's able to take a little payment, mi Yisrael chavero, from his fellow Yisrael. So a Kohen can't do this. Kadesh yitin olaso zos, to give this animal leben bito, to the grandson of the person who's paying him. Kohen, and his grandson's a Kohen. So his friend is Yisrael, and Yisrael's daughter married a Kohen, and he has a grandson who's a Kohen, and the grandfather wants his grandson to do the avoda and get the parts of this animal, or at least the skin if it's an ola. Lahakriva kadesh yitul es ha'or. So Rashi says, all right, it's an ola. So he wants his grandson to get the hide and do the avoda. So he's willing to pay you, $50. So you'll designate this ola to be performed by his grandson. His grandson will get the benefits of doing the avodas Hashem and the benefits of the hide of the animal. Kvi osa tovas hana, and that value of tovas hana that someone might pay you to designate it for his grandson, yitin the bedek habayis. That's his financial interest to bedek habayis. So what's going on is you don't have permission to make the Temurah, make a substitution in the sense you can't change it from Kodshim Mizbeach. Once it's designated as your carbon, you can't say, well, sorry, changed my mind, I want this to go to Bedek Habayis. But you can add on Kedusha in the sense of your financial interest. You can now vow additionally. You can have this Hektish Ilui. Everybody say that you might, a practical ramification of this is our tzedakah box in the shul, it's got two sides. It's got the tzedakah side and it's got the shul fund side. So what if somebody puts $1 in the tzedakah side? And he says, you know what, I changed my mind. He wants to take out that $1 and put it in the other side. You can't do that, Rabbi side. But if he says, you know what, I put $1 in the tzedakah side, I also want a value of $1 to go on the other side, so good. So take out another $1 and put it in the other side. So Baruch Hashem, we can all put $2 in the box and we can be Makayim, the Mishnah of Hekdesh Ilui, if such is your intent. Good. So the Mishnah said this works for Maktishin Son, Hekdesh Ilui, Machrim So we're going to see in the Gemara what kind of cherem we're talking about. So cherem is another kind of vow. And the Mishnah finishes up, Im mesu yikabru. If they die, animals that are sanctified, you have to bury them, meaning you can't feed them to anybody. You can't get benefit from the hide or anything. Rabbi Shimon Omer Kodshei Bedek Habayis Im metu yibadu. He says if they die, you could actually redeem them. So we actually learned yesterday about the dogs, the Kelev Tashichan. So there was an opinion you could redeem Kodshim even to feed it to dogs, even though that's seemingly disrespectful. They learned out from a pasuk. So it seems that Rabbi Shimon might hold like that even a Kodshim that passed away, you could redeem it. We're going to see in the Gemara, it might be a little more complicated than that. It might be that in order to redeem Kodshim, it has to be alive. So that might be what their machlokes is, that we need, as we learned in Archi, we need ha'amada ha'aracha. So ha'amada is standing up. So we stand up the animal, we bring it in front of the Kohanim to assess its value, and then we redeem it for that value. So an animal that's dead, Rabbosai, it's not standing up anymore. It's not going to be stand-upable, so that might be what their machlokes is. Okay, the Gemara. Amar Rav Huna. So Rav Huna has a spin on this, and because of Rav Huna's spin, we're going to figure out exactly what the Mishnah means by cherem. So Rav Huna says, Kodshim Mizbeach Shahit Pison Lecher Kohanim Lo Asaklum. That doesn't work. If you had a korban, you had an ola rabosai set aside for your neder or nedava, and you wanted to hitpis is attach additional level for cherme kohanim to give it as a cherem to kohanim. Lo asa klum, you haven't accomplished anything. It doesn't go to kohanim. The animal doesn't go to kohanim, and the value of the animal also does not go to the kohanim. So cherem is a strange word, and we're going to talk a lot about cherem on Amud Aleph today. But cherem sometimes means banned. So we know in classical times, even not so classical times, there was a nidui, which was a ban for 1 week, Rabosai, and then that 1 week someone in nidui was like a mourner, and there was a cherem, which was a longer ban. So there's a famous philosopher kind of guy went off the derech, Espinoza. He got a cherem for denying divinity of the Torah, so that was cheremable. There was a Beis Din that put Leon Trotsky in cherem because he was anti-Jewish back in Russia, and there was a Beis Din that put Neturei Karta in cherem for denying the state of Israel and denying the Holocaust. They were put in cherem. So please don't do things that get you put into cherem. That's pretty significant form of a ban. But strangely enough, it also means set, not just banned, but set aside. And setting aside could be for kedusha or something, or like a ban, or not so kedusha. It's funny, we have the same word, kodesh. Kodesh means set aside, and kedushin means to set aside a woman, to be only with one man. But a kedesha, Rabosai, a kedesha is a lashon of a harlot, of a zona. So that's the same shorish, that's the same word, but she's also set aside, just not for the same purpose as hekdesh or kedushin. So here too, cherem means banned, but it means banned in the sense of he's setting this aside not for himself, but for the Kohanim, for Bedek Abayis. He's making a cherem because he doesn't want to enjoy from this whatever it is, the animal, the field, the property. He wants someone else to have it. So it's sort of a cherem in a good sense. He's banning it from his own benefit, but he wants other people to share in it. He wants to give it to Hashem, to the temple. It could even be what we call a lishna sagi nar. Now, lishna sagi nar means a euphemism, but it actually means he has enough light. Sagi, enough, nar, light. And that means a blind person. So a blind person, we say he has enough light to see by. So it's sort of it's a euphemism. So you could be calling this a cherem because really it's a bracha. It's a bracha. Rabbi is like he has a lot of money, he has a lot of fields, a lot of animals. He wants to share. He wants to give from what he has to the temple. So he's saying, listen, I'm considering this is a ban, but it was a bracha. Hashem gave me so much, I want to share it. So that could be sort of the opposite reading of lashon cherem, like we have by kedusha and kedesha. Cherem could be one of these similar words. So Ula says he tries to give his carbon to the Kohanim. Lo asaklim, it doesn't work. My taima. Amakra, there's a pasuk. Kol cherem kodshe kodshim hu lashem. All cherem, all of these cherem vows are kodshe kodshim to Hashem. They're holy of holies. They are to Hashem. So he reads this pasuk like this: Kol cherem de kodesh hakadashim. Any cherem made on your kodesh kodshim, which is your mizbeach, your karbanos, your animals going on the mizbeach. Have Lashem Hu should be the girza. Have Lashem Hu. It still belongs to Hashem. So if he made a cherem on his carbon, he hasn't changed the destination of the cherem. He hasn't made an obligation to pay another value. It still belongs to Hashem. It's still just for the mizbeach. Meisive, we have a kasha on Rav Huna. Kodshe bedek abayis. There's a brisa that says kodshim for bedek abayis shehid pisan, that you try to attach another kedusha to them. Bein the kodshim mizbeach, whether that new kedusha is for the mizbeach as a carbon, or bein the cherme kohanim, or it's supposed to go to kohanim. Lo asaklum. That doesn't work. Once it's bedek abayis rabosai, you have no interest in it, you have no ownership in it, and you can't change it. Also, cherme kohanim, you vowed something as a cherem to go to the kohanim, shed pisan, and now you want to attach another kedusha to it. Bein the kodshim mizbeach, whether you want to make that as a carbon on the mizbeach, bein the kodshim bedek abayis, you want it to go to the general temple treasury. Lo asaklum. That does not work. He hasn't changed anything. So this brisa told us about bedek abayis and cherme kohanim. It left out mizbeach. So the Gemara says, ha kodshim mizbeach. If something is kodshim mizbeach, shehit bis lecherme kohanim, and he's attached additional sanctity to it to go to the kohanim, that the value should go to the kohanim. Masha asa asui. So by the leaving out kodshim mizbeach, and the brisa implies you can't change it. The brisa told us when you cannot make a change, when you cannot add on a kedusha and send the value somewhere else, So it implies if you had the Kodshim Mizbeach, you could change it and give the value to Kohanim. Tiyuvta de Rav Huna. Amar lach Rav Huna. Rav Huna has a comeback for this. Ki Shairi, Ahada Shairi. When this Brisa leaves things out, it left one out. To Kodshim Mizbeach, she'd piece on the Bedek Abayis, Masha Asa Asui. It left out, if you had Kodshim Mizbeach, a carbon, and you wanted to send it to Bedek Abayis, that would work. Even according to Rav Huna, and he says in the Brisa left that out. Of all the Chermei Kohanim, if you wanted to send it to Chermei Kohanim, his carbon, he wanted to send the value to the Kohanim, Lo Asa Klum, that would not work, even according to the Brisa. For Lisnei Gabe Chanach. So he says, why doesn't Lisnei Gabe Chanach Tana? So why didn't the Tana teach this, that you're able to send a Kodshim Mizbeach to Bedek Bayis? Why didn't he teach this in his Brisa? Tana is Beitarte, Katane, Delays Beitarte, Lo Katana. He only taught where there's two different targets that don't work. So recall, it said if you had Bedek Abayis, you can't send it Kedusha to Mizbeach or Kohanim. If you had Kodesh Cherem to Kohanim, you can't send that to Bedek Abayis or the Mizbeach. So only where there's two options that don't work, that's where the Tana of this Baraisa teaches. Where there's Leis Beitarti, where there's not two options, both of which don't work, Lo Katane, the Tana didn't teach. So therefore, according to Rav Huna, where you have Kodshim Mizbeach, that according to Rav Huna can go to Bedek Abayis, but can't go to Kohanim, so the Brisa simply didn't teach that case, so therefore Rav Huna wiggles out of this one. It's not, but what about our Mishnah, Rabbosai? Our Mishnah said, Makdish Osan, Hektish Ilui. So the Gemara says, my law of Hektish Ilui lebedek Abayis, Umacharimin lechermei Kohanim, because it says, it's right here on the third line of the Mishnah, Makdishi no so Hektish Ilui, Umacharimin no so. Now in our Mishnah it says Macharim no so, it doesn't say whether that's Kohanim or not. So the Gemara's Shaila is, listen, if you read our Mishnah like Pshat, it says you can be Makdish, Hektish Ilui lebedek Abayis, and Macharim. Macharim should imply to Kohanim, right? He says, lo, Rav Huna says, lo, Idi ve'idi kodshim bedek abayis. Both of them are kodshim bedek abayis. V'lo shna mapik lehu b'lashon hektish lebedek abayis. V'lo shna mapik lehu b'lashon chermei lebedek abayis. So what Rav Huna is saying to wiggle out of this is he reads our Mishnah saying our Mishnah is only teaching that whether you said this is hektish lebedek abayis, or whether you said this is cherem lebedek abayis, it goes to bedek abayis. If you said in lashon cherem, it would still go to Bedek Abayis. Now that was the shita of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira back in Archin. There's a machlokis in Archin if someone says stam charamim. So cherem is a lashon of neder, but if someone just says charamim, does he mean that should go to Bedek Abayis, or does it mean that should go to the kohanim that are currently serving in the temple? So the Rabbanan over there said stam charamim lekohanim. It should go to the serving kohanim. And Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira said it should go to the temple. If he doesn't explain where his cherem should go to, it should also go to Bedek Abayis. So it seems that Rav Huna is sounding a lot like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira right now. He's saying you can read our Mishnah saying whether he said hektish, bedek abayis, or whether he said cherem, it should both go to bedek abayis and not to the kohanim. Halo tane achi, but a Brisa doesn't teach this. Titania beBrisa, there's a teaching in the Brisa, hektish ilui, an upgraded hektish, kodshe bedek abayis of bedek abayis, machrimin osam chermei kohanim. You could make it into a cherem for kohanim, that the value of it, not the animal itself, but the financial value would go to kohanim. Ve'od, and also ha'tanya, there's a brisa, kodshe mizbeach shehikdisho lechermei kohanim. If you had a carbon, something that's destined for the mizbeach, and now he's adding on hektish ilui to chermei kohanim, masha asa asui. So what's done is done. That now the value goes to the kohanim. Tiyuvta Rav Huna tiyuvta. So this knocks out Rav Huna's opinion that if somebody had an animal that was a carbon, and he also wanted to make it a cherem to the kohanim, that would not work according to Rav Huna. But this Baraisa says it definitely does work. So Rabbi say, recall, we read the Rashi earlier on that it doesn't mean the animal now goes to the kohanim. This animal is already a carbon, and the person bringing the carbon, he doesn't really own the animal, but he has a financial interest because if it was a neder and it's lost or it passes away, he has achrayus, he has financial responsibility to replace it. And even if it's a nadava where he doesn't have to replace it, he has the value of tovas hana, that he could take money in order to designate this carbon to a specific Kohen, who's the grandson of his friend Israel, giving him the money. So he has some sort of financial stake in it, even if it's an adava. So it's that amount, either the value of the animal, just the cash value, or the value of tovas hana, that he could get money for this, designating this animal to a specific Kohen. that's what he's giving either to Bedek Abayis or to Chermei Kohanim. He's not actually changing the animal's Kedusha. This is not like a Temurah where he's trying to take Kedusha off of one animal and put it somewhere else. This is he's simply adding on money to go to Bedek Abayis or the Kohanim. Good. Ha Rav Huna Kra Kamar. But wait, Rav Huna had this pasuk. Rav Huna's pasuk was Kol Cherem Kodesh Kodshim Lashemhu. Even if you have Kodesh Kodshim, you try to make it Cherem, it still belongs to Hashem. That's the way Rav Huna read the pasuk. Amar Ula. So Ula has a different reading of this pasuk to help us out. He says, Amar Kra Cherem. The Kra could have said Cherem. The pasuk could have said Cherem. It says Kol Cherem, but it says Kol Cherem. So Rashi explains. On the last Rashi, he says, Kra lo ki Rav Huna. The pasuk is not like Rav Huna, mashma. Does not imply Rav Huna's opinion. The pasuk wrote Kol Cherem. It could have simply written Cherem. Cherem Lashemhu. It could have written Cherem Kodshe Kodshimhu. It could have written the Cherem of the Holy of Holies of Karbanos. Save Kol Cherem, but it writes Kol Cherem, all of the Cherem. Hachi mashma. So this is how Ula reads the pasuk and how we can read the pasuk. Al hakol chayil cherem. On anything, cherem would apply. Afilu amidi to kodshe kodshim hu. Even something that's holy of holies, something that's destined to go up on the mizbeach, cherem could still apply because the pasuk says kol cherem. On any cherem, we can have on anything we can have cherem. That's why it says kol cherem. Even on kodshe kodshim, even on something that should be going up on the mizbeach. So that's how Ula gets out of that, by reading the pasuk differently from Rav Huna. But could Ula really say this? Could Ula hold like this? Hachi, ha amar Ula. This is what Ula says. Hamapis Ola lebedek abayis. Somebody has a carbon Ola and he wants to add on kedusha to bedek abayis, the value to bedek abayis. Ein ba ela ikuv gizbarin. Turning over to Amid Base, and we'll figure out what this means. Ikuv gizbarin says the only change. The Ula says the only change that happens if you have a carbon Ola and your mapis lebedek abayis, you add this hektish ilu lebedek abayis, is ikuv gizbarin. Now Rashi explains, now the gizbarin of hektish own it. So Rashi says, she'ena kreva ad she'yavo gizbarin la'amod al gaba. We can't bring it as a carbon until the treasurers, or a representative of the temple, the bookkeeper, the person in charge of the money, comes to be there. Kedamrinan ba'alma. We have a Gemara in Tainus. Hech karbano she'adam karev v'hu eno omed al gabav. How can we bring the carbon of someone when he's not there? But he doesn't give any money to Bedek Abayis. Simply the treasurers of Bedek Abayis have some stake in this now, that they have to be there when the carbon is offered, because we always have a person stand by his carbon. Because we know a carbon is usually, it could be a gift, but it could also be an atonement. So if a person had a problem, made a mistake, wants to do tshuva, wants to start learning Mesilas Yesharim every morning, he is going to bring his carbon to the, not that last one, but we should. He's going to bring his carbon, and he's going to, in a way, pretend the carbon is him. So the Gemara says he looks at the carbon, he says, really, I've made a mistake, I'm worthy of being shechted, I'm worthy of not living anymore, but the carbon is going to take my place and atone for me, and I'm going to start over, I'm going to be something new. If he's not there in the temple, he's not going to get the impact of his carbon. So we want somebody who's shaykh to this carbon, the owner of the carbon, to be there when his carbon is brought, so he gets the full impact. You understand, by Yom Tov that we have Birkat Kohanim. Now the Kohanim are smart guys. The Kohanim, the Gemara says, they intend that their bracha even goes on people out in the fields, Am Shebasados. Even the people that are not even in shul that day, they even get the bracha from Birkas Kohanim. But if you're there in shul when they're benching Birkas Kohanim, that's different from being somewhere else and not even hearing and seeing the Birkas Kohanim. So it's lahavdil, it's a lot like that. So Ula is saying, if you add Bedek Abayis onto your carbon, the only change is now we make a gizbar from the temple be present when we bring the carbon, because he has some sort of ownership right in it, but we don't make you pay any money, according to Rashi. Now Tosfos says, we do make you pay money, and what does it mean, Ikuv Gizbarin? It means we don't let you bring the carbon just yet, because of Ikuv Gizbarin, we have to wait till the Gizbarin come and assess the value of the animal. So Tosfos says, it's actually the top line of Tosfos, but it's from Amud Aleph, but we're just here on the top line of Amud Beis. She's Garben Shehagizbarin Ya'akvu Osa. They hold back bringing the carbon, the Shochta, before you shecht it. Ad Sheyashumu Oso Mechayvo Demei Shuma, until they've assessed its value, and now he's chayiv to pay the Shuma, the value Lebedek Abayis. And this teaches us she'ein hekdesh chal al gufa she'ola ela le'inyan she'tasar l'shachta ad she'yipedena. So we're not saying you've changed the kedusha of the carbon of this animal from being a carbon to being an animal belonging to Bedek Habayis. Rather, Bedek Habayis now has to assess the animal, and you'll pay that money to Bedek Habayis before you shecht the animal as the carbon. So that's what it could mean, ikuv gizbarin, according to Ula. So it seems, according to Tos's reading, there he would have to pay something to Bedek Habayis. According to Rashi's reading, he doesn't have to pay anything to Bedek Habayis. So it's a kasha on Ula, how Ula can read that the cherem, cherem can take effect on anything, that he would have to pay money, when it seems, at least according to Rashi, he wouldn't have to pay anything to Bedek Habayis if he's makdish his Ola to Bedek Habayis also. So the Gemara says the ger should be olam midrabanan. It says olam rabanan, olam midrabanan. So what it really means is the neder is only chal dirabanan. So when he has a carbon, according to Ula at least, and he tries to matpis additional kedusha, that's only a dirabanan. He hasn't made a deraisa neder or nedava by adding on kedusha, because it was already a carbon. It already, Rabbi say, it wasn't really his. It wasn't 100% his. He was on the hook. He's chayv achrayus if it was a neder, but it wasn't 100% his. So when he makes a cherem or he makes a hektish lebedek habayis on his pre-existing carbon, that's only effective midrabanan according to Ula. The kra, and what about the pasuk kol cherem kodesh kodshim lashem? Kra lemeila de asa. So this pasuk includes it in meila, that meila we translate misappropriation. If somebody misuses temple property or misuses a carbon, he has to pay for that. There's also a carbon meila, and there's also adding on a fifth. So please do not misuse temple property. So he's saying this pasuk kol cherem kodesh kodshim lashem means even if it's a cherem, it's still kodesh kodshim laHashem. It's still chayav in meila. The charamim are chayav in meila until you give them to the kohanim. After you give them to the kohanim, so you understand. If you give your cherem to Bedek Habayis, there's always meila, because if Bedek Habayis owns it, we saw yesterday's daf, there's even meila on the eggs, even meila on the donkey milk, even meila on the sawdust. All those belong to Bedek Habayis. But if it's going a cherem to kohanim, you're going to deliver it to the kohanim. Once the kohanim get it, it's chulin, and they can do whatever they want with it. They can marry a woman with it if it's worth money, anything they want. But until it gets to kohanim, it does have meila. That's what he's saying. So lemeila, if you're telling me it's chayv in meila, lama lekra, why do you need a pasuk for? There's already a pasuk by meila. Ish ki yimol mal b'Hashem. If anyone misappropriates, misuses things that are sanctified to Hashem, that's when there's a meila situations. Why would you even need it? Kodshe kodshim kasiv bei. So it's also written kodshe kodshim. It's still kodshe kodshim. So therefore, it belongs to Hashem, and it falls under the category of ish ki yimol mal b'Hashem, which is a pasuk we'll see a lot in Maseches Mila. Well, taimech, and to your reasoning, had amar yanai ein meila mifreshes min Torah. He says meila here is not mifresh in the Torah. Ele ba'ola. That pasuk is written by ola, bilvad, only by an ola. Shnemar nefesh ki timol mal v'chata bishgaga mikodshei Hashem. So that's written only by davka by a carbon ola. And what does it mean? Mikodshei Hashem hamiuchadim lashem, something that's only for Hashem, which is an ola. Rabbi say an ola all goes to Hashem. Now you're going to tell me, fine, the kohanim get the hide, but the hide is sort of pasnished versus the entire animal, which is all kalil, is all burnt up on the mizbeach. So this meila is written davka by ola, which is miuchadim lashem. Aval chatas ve'asham, chatas ve'asham by chatas. The kohanim and asham, the kohanim are eating quite a bit of the meat. Lo nafka ele midu. So we don't know this that has meila on chatas v'asham only from Rabbi. Titania Rabbi Omer kol chaylev lashem. All of the fat, the delicious juicy fat would be for Hashem. Should go up on the mizbeach and be burnt. The rabbos emori kodshim kolim. This includes even the limbs of the kodshim kolim lemeila. That there's also meila by them because they go onto the mizbeach. So we said the ola has meila, and the fats of the chatas and asham have meila because they go on the mizbeach, and Rebbe includes even the limbs of kodshim kolim. Kodshim kolim, usually we eat them like a shlamim. Even the parts that do go on the mizbeach, there is meila on those. There is the sin of misappropriation if somebody eats or uses those. So lama likra, so why do we need the pasuk? Kodshim kodshim ksiv behu. It's written kodshim kodshim. It says kol cherem lashem kodshim kodshim. Ela avogav de kodshe kodshim. Even though it's kodshe kodshim, it's a carbon destined for the mizbeach. Ksiv behu by Kra. We do need the pasuk. L'ravinhu l'me'ila. We need them for the me'ila. Charamim, or the me'ila of charamim, So if it was destined to the kohanim, it was cherem to kohanim, it's chayiv me'ila until it gets to the kohanim. So charamim nami afogav to kochi kochim ksiv behu. By Kra l'rabinhu l'me'ila. So you need the pasuk kochi kochim l'Hashem to include them in me'ila. If somebody misuses them, he's chayiv for misappropriation. So we see that there is more than one me'ila here. It seems that we're going to see this in a moment. I'm getting ahead of myself in the Rashi here. So gufa hamakdish ola lebedek habayis ein ba ela ikuv gizbarin bilvad. So this is what Ula told us on the very last line of Amud Aleph. If somebody has a carbon ola that he has to bring and he's makdish it to bedek habayis, so the only change is ikuv gizbarin, and Rashi had said that the gizbarin should be there standing by the carbon to get the impact. And Toso said that the gizbarin, we have to wait for the gizbarin to assess it so we know how much he's going to pay later. So Meisivei, we have a kasha on this. Hamakdish ola lebedek habayis. Somebody is makdish his ola to the temple treasury. Asur l'shechta, he can't shecht it ad shetzapade until he redeems it. That sounds like Tosfos' pshat. So midrabanan, so that's a durabanan. So he only has to redeem it and assess it on a durabanan level. It was not a neder deraisa. Achanami nistabra, and this is clearer. Midikatane seifa, because the end of this brisa teaches im avar v'shachta. If they went ahead and shechted it, masha asa asui. So what's done is done. It was a carbon, even though the gizbarin did not get to assess it. They didn't get to pode it and redeem it before they brought it as a carbon. Well, what's done is done. So that implies it was only derabanan when he was adding on the kedusha to bedek habayis to his carbon, which was a neder deraisa. Elamai midrabanan. So what does it mean midrabanan? I hachi. If it's so, it's only derabanan. A maseifa umoalin shtei meilos. It says there's two meilas on here. So meila is only by a deraisa. A person will only bring a carbon meila for misappropriation if it was chayiv in meila deraisa. I meila midrabanan. If the meila was only derabanan, because the bedek habayis kedusha was only derabanan. Amai shtei meilos. Why would there be two meilos on this one animal? Achi kamar. This is really what the Brisa is saying. Vra'uya limol ba shtei meilos. It would be ra'ui. It would be appropriate to make you pay meila twice if somebody did meila on this animal. But really, it's only one meila deraisa and one midrabanan. And a meila derabanan, there's no carbon for. There's no adding a chumash for. We'll get into this a lot in Maseches Meila, of course, but on a deraisa level, somebody commits meila, they have to pay back, add a chomesh 20%, and bring a carbon. A meila derabanan, we simply pay back. It's lo nehenin v'lo ma'alin. It's a lashon of a derabanan. So here, this animal was a carbon ola, so it's chayev in meila deraisa, and then he added kedusha to bedek habayis. So he said, really, he should wait until they're podayit. They should wait until they assess the animal and redeem the animal before they bring it as the carbon. But if they went ahead and brought the animal as a carbon before they were podayit, then the carbon is valid, masha asa asui, and they can't go ahead and assess it now. Because they didn't really need to be podeh, because the kedusha to bedek habayis was only derabanan, because it was trying to be on top of the kedusha to mizbeach, which was the deraisa. So it says shtei meilos. It really means there was the meila deraisa, that it was a carbon, it was an ola, and the meila derabanan, which is not the same thing as a real meila, that the value was supposed to go to bedek habayis. Okay, this was amazing, a mouthful. So good. 2 dots. Im metu yakabru. If the animal dies, we're going to bury it. And burying it means no one's going to get hana from it because it's underground and you can't use it. This is as opposed to sometimes you could podeh, you could redeem a balmum or a treifa in order to use it or feed it to the dogs. So I'm Rabbi Yochanan, the Rabbanan. Rabbi Yochanan says for the Rabbanan. So remember back in our Mishnah, we had Rabbi Shimon said you could be podeh. So the Rabbanan said, Imesu yikabru. Rabbi Shimon omer kodche bedek habayis, imesu yipal. He says by bedek habayis, if they died, you could be podeh them. You could redeem the animal from bedek habayis, and use that dead animal somehow. So for the Rabbanan, so Rabbi Yochanan is going to explain. The Rabbanan echad kodche mizbeach, echad kodche bedek habayis, hayu beklol ha'amada of ha'aracha. Says this is the machlokes. The rabbis hold whether it's kodshim mizbeach, it's going to be a carbon or bosai, or it's koche bedek habayis, it needs ha'amada, standing it up, and ha'racha, and then you assess it. So the animal has to be alive in order to stand up. There's not a lot of dead animals standing up. Has to be, they stand it up, and then they assess it, and then you pay that amount to redeem it from hektish. Reish Lakish Amar, the Rabbanan, koche bedek habayis, hayu beklal ha'amada racha. He says, according to the Rabbanan, things that go up on the Mizbeach, they need Hamad Avracha, they need to stand up and be assessed for their value. Kodesh Mizbeach, Lo Hayu, Biklal Hamad Avracha. So only Bedek Habayis needs to be assessed, but Kodesh Mizbeach does not need to be assessed before it's redeemed. V'zeh, and both of them, both Rabbi Shimon and the Rabbanan, Modeh, Rabbi Shimon, de Kodesh Bedek Habayis, Lo Hayu, Biklal Hamad Avracha. The Kodshim for Bedek Habayis, sorry, Zeh should be Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. They agree that according to Rabbi Shimon, Kodesh Bedek Habayis lo hayu b'klal hamad of haracha, which is why Rabbi Shimon and our Mishnah Rabbi said that even after it's dead, if it was Kodesh Bedek Habayis, it could be redeemed even dead because it doesn't need hamad of haracha. Kodesh Mizbeach hayu b'klal hamad of haracha, but Kodesh Mizbeach karbanot, they do need to be alive to be able to stand up and be assessed. V'davar ha'acher balmum meikaro lo haya b'klal hamad racha. Or you could say that something that was already a balmum is not in the category of needing hamad racha. Divrei hakol balmum meikaro lo haya hamad racha. And they all agree that if it was a balmum already, if it was a balmum before they were trying to makdish it, it would never need hamad racha. Only things that were really kodshim need hamad racha, need to be stood up to be assessed. But something that was a balmum was never really there and never needed to get assessed. It's now the Mishnah says Rabbi Shimon Omer Kodesh Bedek Habayis Shemetu Yipadu. That's our Mishnah. Bishlama Rabbi Yochanan. It's good according to Rabbi Yochanan. To Amar the Rabbanan. He explains the rabbis hold Echad Zeh ve'Echad Zeh Chay b'Kol Hamad Racha. It doesn't matter what kind of kodshim, whether it's Bedek Habayis or Mizbeach. It needs to be alive to stand up. Hainu de Itzrich Rabbi Shimon the Perushe. That's why Rabbi Shimon has to explain, in his opinion, that Kodesh Bedek Habayis Shemetu Yipadu. That the kodshim of Bedek Habayis can be redeemed after they die. Ela Reish Lakish, but Lakish doesn't hold like this. Lama leila Perushe. Why does Rabbi Shimon have to explain in the Mishnah that Davka kodshim Bedek Habayis can be redeemed after they die? Leima im metu yipadu. He should just say if they die, you can redeem it. He shouldn't have to explain it's Bedek Habayis. Amar lach Reish Lakish. Rabbi Shimon lo havayada mai de Amar Tanakama. Rabbi Shimon didn't know if the Tanakama held that both Kodshim Mizbeach and Kodshim Bedek Habayis need Hamad Racha. V'hachi kamar le. This is what Rabbi Shimon's telling them. I bekodshim Mizbeach, if it's Kodshim Mizbeach karbanos medina loch, you should agree. Bekodshim Bedek Habayis imetu yipadu. But if it's Kodshim Bedek Habayis, that if they died, they should be able to be redeemed according to Rabbi Shimon. Tani kivase de Rabbi Yochanan. There's a brisa supporting Rabbi Yochanan. Ve'im should be ve'im behema asher yakrivu mimenu bebale mumin sheiptu akazu midaber. So there's a pasuk. See if we can get the pasuk. Ve'im behema asher yakrivu mimenu karban Hashem. If in an animal that you're bringing as a carbon to Hashem, kol asher yitin mimenu l'Hashem yeh kodesh. Anything you give from it to Hashem will be kodesh. So the way they're reading this is to exclude balei mumin. But balei mumin sheyapadu akasuv medaber is talking about a bal mum that they were redeemed, that it still it still needed a hamada racha because it had a sanctity as being a kodshim before it was a bal mum. Ata omer bebalei mumin. Are you saying this is balei mumin or eno ele behema tmeya, or maybe that's a behema tmeya? So that was something else that could not be a carbon and therefore needed to be redeemed. Kasha omer im bebehema, and so it says the next pasuk right after that, ve'im bebehema hatmeya ufada, and you redeem a behema tmeya that was hektish. Be'erkecha, you redeem it by its value. Saf chamishiso alav, you add 20%. V'im lo yagael v'nimkar be'erkecha, and if it doesn't redeem it, then it's sold by value. So the next pasuk says im behema tameya upada be'erkecha chari behema tameya amor. Swing over the top of lag hamani ani mekayim. So ma'ani mekayim. How do we understand the pasuk? Ve'im kol behema asher lo yakrivim menu karban Hashem. If it's a behema you can't bring to Hashem, then you redeem it. Talking about bebalei mumin. That's talking about a bal mum sheyapadu. So a little bit more. We'll have to get a running start tomorrow to really understand this. Yochel Yapadu al Balmim over. You might think you would redeem an animal even as a temporary blemish. Tav Lomar Asher Lo Yakrivu Mimenu. The pasuk says when you redeem it, when you couldn't be able to bring it as a carbon. She'enu kreva kolikar, you couldn't bring it at all. Yatztazo, this excludes a temporary balmum. She'enu kreva hayom, you can't bring it today, but it's going to get better. Ela lemachar, you can redeem it. It'll be shektable, be carbonable. It'd be worthy to be a carbon tomorrow. Amar Chmanan avid le hamada racha, and that's what the Torah says. It needs a hamada racha. It needs to be stood up and be assessed. We'll leave it here tomorrow. We're going to have to get a running start. We're kind of running out of Temurah here. Why don't we start at 6 tomorrow? Is that good, Rabbi? 6? Everyone says good. Thank you. Zagizant.